Oh, hello. What is up? It is a beautiful day or night, evening, wherever you're at around the world. This is your founder, host, Joshua Taylor of Break Into the Future, where we break into all things crypto, blockchain right now, but it's all about AI, Internet of Things, electric vehicles, electric energy, solar, psychedelics, cannabis, anything you could think about, we're breaking into it. I got my guy Mani here, the founder of CryptoJobsDaily. What is up, my guy? How you doing, man?
I'm very good, Joshua, and thank you for having me on.
Hey, it's a pleasure, man. It's a pleasure. I'm super pumped. Just excited to hear more about you. The people want to know, of course. Just let's just have a great conversation. So, who are you? Yeah, anything you want to say?
So yeah, I mean a little bit about myself. In terms of my crypto background and how I got involved in this space. So like I'm one of these guys that they might call an OG. So I've been in crypto since like 2013, and when I first got involved in blockchain, 8 years on now, I look back on it and in the beginning, people have this idea of kind of wanting to either be rich or, get rich off Bitcoin. And, I look back over these 8 years and all the stuff I've done. And more than anything, I probably just wanted to change a career in my life. Like I wasn't happy with my job, what I was doing. I used to work in social work
Mm,
a long time ago. And then, just before I became full-time crypto. And you know, kind of moving into this space has been one of the most best things I've done in my life, just in a sense that everything's so new, it's so exciting, we're
yeah.
working globally. So yeah, kind of been in crypto for 8 years now. And, last year, really, I was looking for work myself, like in the last bear market. And last year, really kind of was struggling to find work, was struggling to kind of, find a job that would suit, with my experience.
Mhm.
And inevitably, I just ended up setting up Crypto Jobs Daily to kind of help people like myself and, kind of help people transition into a full-time crypto job.
Mhm. Yeah, that's awesome. You talk about you joined in 2012. Did you you're like an OG. So were you focused more like you said getting rich? Were you like you had a social work job and you were just trading and then you got a job in crypto on a platform or on what happened there, right? You found out about it. Did you immediately get it? Like what was your journey on that?
That's a really interesting question. And for anyone who resonates with the early days, majority of people in that time to get involved in crypto, you were either just going to buy the coins. You had exchanges like Mt. Gox, which are no longer here, unfortunately. But the
RIP.
majority, yeah, RIP for all the Mt. Gox guys. And then your other way to get involved was through mining.
Mm,
And that's pretty much like how 90% I would say of people got involved in crypto, who are pre
mhm.
like 2015, 2016. Like
Yeah.
you had a mining rig, you kind of put that to work. And that's pretty much how I transitioned. I had a full-time job. I then, was doing t-shirt printing and a t-shirt hustle at the same time.
Mm,
And, one of the main ways that I transitioned into this was we had a Bitcoin mining rig, right? And, in them days, you have one of these things and it seems great and it seems like it's going to run forever and, pump out, 2 Bitcoins every week as it was.
yeah.
But, within a couple of months, I quickly realized like, there's more things I can do in this space and what other
Mm,
value could I bring. So
yeah.
as I mentioned, I had a t-shirt printing business. I used to do company logos and, parties and stuff like this. And
Mhm.
one day someone just said, why don't you, put a Bitcoin logo on a t-shirt and a hoodie and see what happens with this, see if anyone buys it.
Yeah.
So I did, and within a couple of weeks, I remember selling a few pieces and thinking, "Wow, like this is a really good way to start stacking up bitcoins." Is selling a product
Yeah.
and whatever your profit margin would be, just bank that in bitcoins and see where it ends up.
Mhm.
So over the next few years, kind of dabbled in a few other things. A lot more mining. I would say that was kind of like my bread and butter. And, if we fast forward to like 2016, 2017, really jumped back into the space, like seriously again at that point, full time, no job, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, mining was the thing at that time. I mean, it's been in the news recently about how people are moving from China. But I think the thing we learned with that was it got more and more difficult. And if you didn't have the funds of let's say, a investment vehicle or a small, small to medium sized enterprise,
Yeah.
the little guy got forced out. So
The competition really came heavy. Mm-hmm.
right. And I think this is really a reflection of like how the industry has changed over the last 8 years. It's become a lot more efficient, a lot more automated. And, the smaller guys now getting pushed out, even if you look at, investing in Bitcoin. I mean,
yeah,
who can afford $20,000, $30,000 for one Bitcoin nowadays, right?
Yeah. And the institutions are here, the big boys and girls.
Very much so, and the change is noticeable in that sense as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, on that note, I guess like, the one advice I always give to newer people is like, if you're finding it difficult in the mainstream stuff, investing, mining, trading, always look at these little niches that are being built in this space. And, you'd be surprised how much skills are needed, from people who are not even got the skills. It's people who are interested in that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you talk about some of those niches that what are some of those? Because some people that watch this might be like, I'm just trying to get my head around Bitcoin and blockchain.
So I'm really glad you asked that, Joshua. I mean, moving on from where we were kind of like when I said at 2017, 18, got into mining really heavy. I mean,
yeah.
Anyone who remembers the last bear market, a few years in, it got really difficult to make money off coins or, marketing or whatever your skill was.
Yeah.
And for me, I was kind of looking at it like, right, I want to get a job in this space, but where do I start and what sort of, skills can I bring? So I touched on it earlier. I was really struggling to find a job. I mean, having 6 years experience in crypto in mining didn't really translate well on a resume when looking for a job. People
right.
Like, how do you show that? Aside from sending pictures of your mining rigs and that, you can put one together. Right? So kind of like one of the niches I noticed is that no one's talking about how to get a job in blockchain or actually showing you how to do so.
Yeah.
There's lots of people in this space who come over with a strong skill set in the real world, right? But how do they transition that into crypto? So like an example of a niche I could give is, I was finding it difficult to find a job.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of sending out countless more applications and hearing nothing back and getting dejected through that process, what I decided to do was set up a podcast and interview the top 10 companies I actually wanted to work at, and do a podcast under the disguise of like, hey, let's talk about your company and what it's like working there.
That's smart. Yeah.
So after a few episodes, I realized that everyone I'm speaking to right now, the founder of the company or the chief operating officer, these guys are all hiring and having two issues. One, they're a crypto startup. They don't have time to hire people. Everything's being done at breakneck speed, and hiring is one of those things that can take a couple of weeks or months.
Yeah.
From start to finish. And then the second thing is they were really struggling to find experienced candidates who were suitable for the job.
Yeah.
They could filter out from just a resume. So one of the things we spoke to him about on the podcast was like, well, why don't you think about using a company who's got, a niche or a foothold in crypto, who knows a load of candidates and, can speak to these guys with the expertise that's needed, So if you're talking to someone who's been in blockchain, the worst thing you can probably do to put them off from working with you is not understand the industry that they're in. So, an example I can give, if someone said, oh, I remember investing in Ethereum in 2012 and mining it. And you're like, what? Ethereum didn't come out till 2015 and you till the end of that year, a year after the ICO was done. So kind of like a long story short, one of the niches we managed to build was connecting companies and job seekers and kind of putting those two in touch and, delivering a really efficient and top-notch recruitment service for both candidates and companies to help fill these, ever growing demand for jobs in blockchain. So yeah, that's a little bit about our story. I mean, sorry if it's a really long, but I mean,
no, that's good. Like what made you think, when did you start the podcast?
So maybe about a year and a half ago, it was actually just before Corona. I remember me and my
Wow.
wife got married at the time. We come back from honeymoon. And I
Congrats.
was like, yeah, we want to get this podcast ready. So I remember staying at our in-laws' house, putting this
Yeah.
together. And, you know, a year and a half on, we've now interviewed over 100 companies in the blockchain space. And,
Wow.
you know,
Congrats.
thank you. And, you know, one of the things I found with this is whenever you do something for the first time in crypto, if it's uncomfortable, it's inevitably something that's probably going to help you grow in this space. And, you know, once you've done it a few times and you learn that it's not going to kill you,
Yeah.
it becomes like second nature to the point of like, right, hey, I've got 2 podcasts this week. Wow, that's the most enjoyable part of my week, right? Because it's, you know, I know how to do
I
it.
know the feeling.
And, you know, this is a really good example of like starting one thing and then pivoting into something else in this space. Like, you know, for our listeners out there, both clients and, you know, candidates, I'm dead honest. Like, I had no recruitment experience in my prior life to actually starting this company. And for some companies, that can make you feel nervous to think, well, how can I work with a guy who's only been running a recruitment company for a year? Well, the way I like to describe it is, because I've got a social work background, you know, I tend to work on that basis. So, you know, I'm used to working with a handful of clients at one time, no more than 4 or 5, you know, even less sometimes when I used to work in the prison service. And as a result, the one thing I've learned with this is like, you know, delivering results for clients in recruitment is no different from delivering results from, you know, clients in the social work space. Like, they have a need. It's pretty urgent at the time you start working with them. And if you can identify what that need is and how to address it and how to resolve it, you know, with small, measurable, attainable and realistic targets, you know, we call it the SMART plan. It means that whatever the problem is can be solved if you just break it down and work with the right people in place. Like, you know, I'm not going to be on it. I'm not going to be the guy who solves all your problems, but if I can put you in touch with the right people who can and help you look at that in a holistic way, then, you know, a really good example we can give is, you know, people who are struggling to find work in this space. We look at why and how we can resolve that. And, you know, within a few weeks, we then completely change around their way of thinking and their ability to land a job.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you were mastering your skills in client services and people, really people with probably abnormal and extreme cases at times.
Right.
But, this is transferable to crypto or any industry. I could do this because I know people.
It's
right?
true.
Awesome.
You know, push comes to shove, any industry you deal with in the world, doesn't matter whether it's, you know, fintech or whether it's dealing with, you know, social care or, you know, what your job deals with, whether it's dealing with people or not. We often find that there's a person on the end of that you're going to have to interact with at some point. And if you have really good people skills, you know, life tends to be a little bit easier for you, because when people like you, they trust you. When they trust you, they want to work with you. And that's like the magic trifecta that we look at. You know, so yeah, I mean, I guess on that note, like, you know, for inspiring someone out there who thinks, well, how do I get a job in crypto? I've got no technical experience. I've got no degree in computing science. Well, you know, I'm a testament to that. I don't have any tech experience. I mean, I didn't use a computer until I was 22. You know, I'm talking like the early 2000s here, right? So, so, you know, the kids today, when they say they've got no tech skills, or even the people today, you do. It's just, how can you transfer those skills and show a potential employer like what value you bring with those skills?
Yeah. That's awesome. Like, so it's like you don't have to be this. I was coding in my basement at 12 years old, like Vitalik. Vitalik Buterin, for the viewers, he is the founder of Ethereum, like a wizard, warlock god in the crypto space. Just for information, we want to educate people here. So basically, you're saying we don't have to be the godfather of crypto to get into crypto.
Not at all. And, you know, again, like coming back to my experiences when I first got involved in this space, I mean, you know, I went from a guy who was like computer illiterate and, you know, didn't like doing tasks on a computer to someone who's able to put together a computer miner from scratch, you know, in terms of the parts, put them together physically, then program it, start mining, you know, troubleshoot it for when things went wrong. And, you know, not only that, like I remember my first crypto experience actually like buying Bitcoin and sending it. Now, You know what I mean?
Back then, wow. Explain that, like, for the viewers. It's like, give us that, like, how the challenges, like,
Hmm.
in 2012, 13 versus like in 2021, how different,
Yeah.
how far have we come?
I mean, like, let's say for the first, experience I had, right? And I mean, we're not talking like big numbers here in terms of like dollar value, but
Yeah.
people might hear and think it sounds like a lot now, but bear in mind it wasn't at the time. So I remember we started off mining on GPU miners, and for anyone who knows, like in those days, you could,
What's
and
the
then
GPU miner?
right, really good question. So for anyone who plays computer games on their PC as to opposed to a console, will know like you have your CPU, which is like for your basic computing processes, but then for the more higher power and the higher end and the better performance, you have your GPU, which is like a CPU on steroids. Now, a gamer will only ever need one GPU in his rig, and that's really what they're built for, is providing computing power and enjoyment for people. I don't know how, but someone quickly cottoned on in the mining space that GPUs really provided really efficient mining power. So, by 2011, 2012, you were finding that people were having computing rigs with 3 or 4 GPUs in them at one time. And that was really the maximum. And then as the years progressed, we got to 2012, 2013. You were then having people having whole mining farms of these things, instead of just being a bedroom miner, with 1 or 2 rigs. You
Yeah.
now go into like 10, 20. And this is what we became. But yeah, for a GPU rig, it's basically like the way to number crunch and solve these algorithmic problems that are needed for the mining networks on Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, all these bigger chains. And yeah, I went from a GPU miner to then looking at getting more expensive mining rigs known as ASICs, which are like dedicated mining rigs for a particular algorithm. So, you have your Bitcoin miners, you have your Ethereum miners right now. And coming back to where I was, like, so we were going through that transition stage. And I remember thinking, shit, I need to buy like a ASICs rig. We're going to be left behind, right?
Yeah. Because the computing power is getting stronger and competition,
right.
and we need 2 rigs, we need 4, we need 16, we need a whole server, like,
Right.
place. Yeah. So was that what that was happening, is what I'm assuming?
100%. And, you describe it in a really good way. So it became like an arms race. This happened in the blink of an eye within a couple of weeks of us starting. So
Wow.
at this point, I'm now panicking, thinking, right, we spent thousands of dollars on hardware that may become obsolete. We now need to get new hardware. So I remember the day very well. I think it was like maybe the 5th of June, 2013. For anyone who's a buff and wants to maybe go back and check the price at that time, I think we were talking $120 a coin back in those days. So at this time, I've got up on a Saturday morning, right, and I'm like, right, I'm going to spend the last bit of money I've got in my life. I think it was actually a credit card loan that I had for sat around for security. Just kind of, on the low. And I thought, right, I'm going to chuck this into Bitcoin right now. So
for security.
So, don't take this advice, for anyone listening out there, but this is like a good
advice. Don't do this.
So this was a loan from a credit card, first of all. So like the most expensive loan you can get.
Yeah.
The actual money that I had sat around was to repay another loan that I had. So that this wasn't money I even had, for security, like I was saying. And then the third thing was, I'm tucking it into a highly volatile asset that at the time I didn't even know how to use, right? I was mining, but I'd never actually bought and sold Bitcoin. I'd never used a wallet. And at that point, I was a complete newbie, So talking about like first experiences here, this is like being thrown into the deep end where, in them days, Mt. Gox was your only fiat on-ramp. So I really struggled to kind of, use that. Eventually I ended up going to local Bitcoins, which is still around today, but, you pay a premium. And the process itself was, I'm just looking back on it. It's crazy. I remember buying 10 Bitcoins off one guy, buying 5 off another. And then I got to about 20, 25 Bitcoins. Remember, this is like only $100 at the time, right? So we're talking like $2,500 or something here.
Yeah.
And then I got to the next purchase. I needed to buy 50, by the way. I got to the next purchase. And this guy rang me out of the blue on my cell number. And I was like, who's this? And he goes, oh, it's so-and-so from Local Bitcoins. I'm like, what do you want? And he goes, oh, I just got to verify who you are before I can send you coins. I was like, why? He goes, just this is a process. And I'm like, what the hell? So this is like, obviously, again, this is like the first time I'm encountering KYC. You know, all my previous life, I've used the real banking world. You pay with your debit card, you never have an issue. No one checks who you are.
Yeah.
You know, worst case, you get a text on your cell, right, from the bank or whatever. So I remember, and then I've eventually got like 50 Bitcoins or whatever we needed to send over to this company to buy these ASICs.
Mm-hmm.
And the next thing I know, I've got to send it from the Bitcoin QT wallet, which, you know, took like a couple of hours to download on itself. I mean, you know, for anyone listening now, it ain't going to take a couple of hours now, you know, more like a couple of weeks. But yeah, I remember that whole process. And then I remember I had to send a signed message to this guy to verify that this was me, this was my ID, who I'm sending it, this is my name, my address, my order number. And I remember at the end of that afternoon, this was like a 4 to 5 hour process.
Mm-hmm.
I remember just lying down thinking, what the hell have I done? Like, I've just sent $5,000 across the world to some guy in China. I don't even know his name, and I don't even know his company, and I don't know what I'm getting, when I'm getting it. And all I know is I've sent it in Bitcoins and I've got no refund process for this if this goes wrong. So for anyone listening out there who often regrets or says to myself, oh, I wish I'd got in earlier, and, you know, I wish I'd done this. I'm saying to you, these were the risks involved. And, you know, the people who did get in early, they deserve the rewards of holding for so long, because you literally didn't know if your money was safe or not. You know, you bought it off some sketchy exchange. They sent it to some wallet that you didn't know how to use.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's
like ground zero guinea pig days. Like, you did not.
100%. And
you're taking all the risk.
100. And you often hear these horror stories about how people lose their seed phrase, their wallet. They try and load up an old wallet and they've forgotten their password. Well, these are the things that we went through. I mean, in them days, you didn't have a Trezor, you didn't have Coinbase, you know, no such thing as two-factor authentication. It was literally you're left to your own devices, and there you go.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, we were still trying to get 3 and 4G up, and, you know, that Web 2, right, wasn't even built out all the way as it is today. So talk about being early. What is it like now? Right? Explain that to someone who's still probably not even really into crypto that much, or just they hear about Bitcoin, but they're not even, probably don't even have a wallet yet. What is it like?
So the biggest change I would say is not only the ease of use, but I think the amount of information that's available to educate before you get started. Mm-hmm. So, you know, referring back to my journey, when that guy rang and said, can I have your ID? We went through this whole conversation, and, you know, he was like, he was saying to me, I go, how do I get this off? And he goes, watch a video on YouTube. And I was like, thanks a lot for your help. But I mean, you know, at that point, there wasn't anything on YouTube. So he was kind of like tongue in cheek, right? Yeah. Whereas now, you know, you type anything in on Google, YouTube, there's a wealth of information out there that can help. So I think, you know, for the newcomers now, like if you want to buy Bitcoin, someone mentions it, you can download the Coinbase app on your phone. You can instantly get set up and buy, but then you can also, you know, spend a few days on YouTube just delving right into you know, projects, getting expert advice, you know, all of the information that wasn't around here 8, 9 years ago.
Yeah. There's so many YouTube channels and AI, and all the exchanges are kind of educational.
Yeah.
Since Coinbase probably being number 1 easiest for onboarding. But yeah, that's definitely was a big way for me to learn, was just like surfing. I'm already a super curious person, but in terms of going back to your expertise now and what, you know, getting away from the mining world and finding that niche into the recruiting career space, when you delve into that, and it was a problem that you were solving for yourself. Mm-hmm. I see, as I was, you know, diving into it, there's so much information. It's like, what is legit? Yeah. So as you're helping people in sourcing talent, like, how do you direct people as they are wanting to get skills and learn more about crypto? Like what's you all's framework of Crypto Jobs Daily? How do you all operate? How does it work?
That's a really good question. I mean, we touched on this earlier. I mean, I think right now in the blockchain space, there's really a lack of, skills and experience. And
Exactly.
I think the key thing that we find with companies is they're looking for people who have done the same job in blockchain before, and that's very understandable. So, if they're looking for a marketing person, they're always going to choose the person who's got marketing experience at another blockchain company and quite recently. So on that note, like one of the frameworks we always kind of look for with candidates is when we speak to them is like, okay, let's talk a little bit about, your working experiences, your understanding of blockchain, and actually, what are you looking for in this space? Like, is it a change of, career? So, are you looking to go from one sector into this one and do the same job? Or are you actually looking for an actual change of job role? And blockchain is the way you want to facilitate that, and you want to start afresh in this industry. So I guess that's the first thing we usually ask. And, from that, we can then glean like a little bit more about the person, what they're looking for. And, one of the key things I love about blockchain and crypto in general, Joshua, especially from the early days, is that if you can show initiative in this space and take that first step, you will often find that you've got a foot ahead of, 90% of your competition in this space. And, when I say that is like, example like a give is, let's say we're speaking to someone who's wanting to transition into crypto, right? And they've got real world experience in the same job, but they haven't got any experience in crypto working in that role.
Yeah.
So the first advice we always give is like, well, have you ever thought about volunteering in this space, or, considering an internship, or, even better still, like volunteering in the projects that you're invested in, because you already know the community, the company, what they're doing. If you've invested your own time and money into that, clearly you've got a rationale behind why you invested your money. You think it's, either you believe in the team or the product or, whatever. And, with this, Joshua, like, I've never, ever seen a company turn someone down when they offer to volunteer. Like, why would they? I mean, the founders and the people running that company, they're doing 20 things at once. So if someone comes along and says, hey, I can help with this, I've got experience.
Yes, they're like begging for help, right?
Exactly. And, so that's the first recommendation we always make. And with that, people can choose how little or how much they want to invest into that, whether you want to do an hour a day, whether that's 5 hours on a weekend, 10 hours in a month. So totally up to you. And again, that way you can get a better feel for like what fits for your lifestyle in terms of work, but also you're now building contacts in the space. So, you do work for one company, he's going to say, hey man, I've got this guy, he's great, he's really good at this, he's looking for a full-time job, I can't give him one, but I noticed you guys have got one going, would you consider him? So, that's one way we really say to people, like, when we do a discovery call, is like, find out what you want and try it out first without, taking too much of a risk, without leaving your job, without transitioning and finding you don't like it. Mm-hmm. So, that's one really kind of soft way we help people. And the other way we like to help is also just looking over their resume. I mean, people worry about this a lot and they say, oh man, I haven't got anything on my resume related to crypto. And say, well, all right, let's look at what you've done. So have you invested in crypto? Yes. Okay. That involves kind of like analysis, it involves research, it involves management, it involves networking, it involves, kind of gathering information from a variety of sources. Like, how can we put that into a couple of bullet points to show what you've done so far in this space and what you've been successful at? And then, one of the ones we really like to say to people is like, talk about the growth of your Twitter account. You talk about the way you've networked and how you've met people. Even talk about like how you researched the projects and you found it early compared to other people. What was the methodology in that? How did you kind of follow through with it? How did you maximize your gains? And inevitably, people always want to talk about like their financial gains in crypto as a way of kind of quantifying themselves, why they can do a job or why they're skillful. So one of the other ways we like to talk about people, or people can talk about how they've developed in this space, is their ability to network and grow relationships with other people. Mm-hmm. So, saying, hey, I know this guy from, this project, and we got in touch through meeting at this community and this network. And I talked about this. People are like, hey, I love that, because when you reach out in this space, doors open. So, it's another thing we recommend to candidates is don't be shy, because I mean, I'm not old, right? But I'm coming up to like the late 30s. And, I remember 15, 20 years ago when I wanted to change careers, man, I got doors shoved in my face. People would say, no, you don't have a degree. No, you don't have the right suit. You don't come from the right area. You don't have the right experience. I'm telling you now, one of the things I love about blockchain, no one will ever say that to you.
Exactly.
We're learning on the job here, right? So, that's one key piece of advice we always give to candidates is don't feel shy about, learning, asking. The information's all there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for that. That's key, because I think that's where kind of the move is going when you think about blockchain, crypto, this decentralization word that's been, that's really happening in terms like, hey, if you can add value to a project, or hey, I want to help at CryptoJobsDaily, I could create content, or I could write, or I could do something cool or useful. It's like, oh, I'll have at it. And people putting like you said, if people are having skin in the game, it's like proof of work, right? Proof of work and proof of stake. If I have proof of work, then hey, I can get on this team, or I could help out, or I could add value to not just one project but multiple projects, and people having more ownership of not just the work they do, but their ability to get on their career, like take ownership of their career. So yeah, that's really awesome.
It's true. And just on that note, Joshua, like in terms of like career as well, like the one thing I love about this space, and I can see it in front of my eyes with the people we speak to, I've never known an industry where you can start off, let's say, at the lower ends of the industry and work your way up within 1 or 2 years. It's ridiculous how quick people progress. I mean, I see people starting roles as community managers within 2 years. They're like the head of growth or the head of marketing or the head of BD. They've got an equity share. They're one of the early founding members. It's insane to see how quickly people can progress in their careers here.
Why is that? Why are people progressing so quickly?
I am glad you asked that. And I think one of the things is like, if you can show loyalty to a company, and, bear in mind, majority of projects are startups. I mean, even Binance, even though it's 5 years old or 4 years old, even, 4 years old. I mean, technically it's still a startup, right? In terms of like, it's a baby. And I think one of the reasons why people progress is like, if you can show loyalty, if you can show innovation, if you can, help drive a project from just a great idea and a great group of people into like, one of the leaders in its space, companies reward you, because again, this is crypto, right? We're doing new things. A lot of the founders in these startups, they're doing this for the first time, so they're happy to reward you in the journey. This isn't like the corporate sector where you have to account for every minute of your day. You have to wear a suit to work, and you have to go to conferences and yes sir for the next 10 years making teas and what have you not. This is like you're working from home, you're working in your joggers, your shorts, your t-shirt, and they value much more for the work you deliver rather than what you look like and what school you came from.
Yeah, you can even say socially it's changing how we do business.
100%. And other thing is with this note, like I've never seen such an accepting community.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what your name is, doesn't matter what country you come from, doesn't matter what you look like if you can do the job here, they'll take you.
Yeah. It's making me want to go around and talk about like the metaverse and talk about how that you play to earn. And you have all these like the new jobs that don't exist.
Yeah. Right.
So like CryptoJobsDaily actually signing like, okay, gaming people, okay, you could earn thousands and thousands of whatever coin or dollar equivalents in these play to earn games or these different type of metaverse worlds where, hey, you come to the office in this metaverse, like, hey, we need people to come here and work or build or whatever, like what's up with that? Let's just like nerd out on that, I guess.
Well, I'm really glad you asked it. I mean, like as a company ourselves, I'm really big on the gaming space. We work with some of the leading gaming companies in blockchain, like Animoca Brands, Engine, Dapper Labs.
Yeah.
And one of the cool things I've really found with this is like the metaverse itself is creating a whole new industry, because don't forget, when you're in the metaverse, you're actually a person, you're a physical person, right? People can see you, your movements are physical, you're traveling in a physical world, let's say, even though you can't touch it and feel it. Well, in the metaverse, you can.
Not yet.
Right? Yeah, well, exactly. And I can give an example. Like at some point in the metaverse in the future, there'll be taxi drivers that are needed. There'll be pilots. There'll be all sorts. People. It sounds funny now, right? But
Yeah.
it's only a matter of time. And a part of that will be, we've talked about this as a company, is like people want to do their day-to-day tasks in the metaverse, because although it sounds silly now, we envisage the idea of us having a metaverse-based office where, while we're doing interviews now with candidates all over the world, we're doing Zoom calls and it's great and what have you not. We would really love the idea of having a physical an office, let's say, in the metaverse, where you can drop in and you can say, hey, Manu, how's it going, man? I mean, I just started this new job and I really like it. And, I want to leave a review for you. I want to say thanks. Can I sign a card? Or do you have like a wall of fame? Or, we're kind of looking at these and.
Yeah. New concept. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We're looking at the same with companies. Like, would they want to do job interviews? And, I know that Decentraland is probably one of the biggest. And I know Kraken have got a really big office there right now. Or a plot of land, let's say. And honestly, Joshua, I only see it as a matter of time, and I'm talking like months, not years here, where companies all migrate, and they just how we went from like having a digital, a real world office address on a letterhead and sending a letter out for a job offer, and having a physical interview. I very much seeing a transition, like where companies went from real world to digital, and are now going to go from digital to metaverse, and you'll see crypto companies at the forefront of this.
The next 6 to 12 months, it's like people are going to start heading into Decentraland, CryptoVoxel, Sandbox, BitCountry, and building their own worlds, and then like eventually, the Web2 companies are like, oh, like I think I need to look into this, over the next between this Bitcoin halving cycle. In the next 2024, 25, I think we'll see that growth, like gradually, then suddenly it's just like, wow. But we're still in those developing stages.
100%. And, I kind of see it as a natural transition, as, in the early days of crypto, we went from a Bitcoin talk forum to then going over to social media, Twitter, and then we went eventually to Telegram and Discord through instant communication. And I'm seeing the same here. At some point, even, like you said, the next couple of months, we'll see a progress of people communicating in metaverses. We're already seeing it now.
Yeah.
And as a result, we'll see a whole new jobs economy pop up, builders, artists, designers, all sorts, job boards, recruitment companies, clothing stores, all sorts. I mean, I don't even think we see the tip of the iceberg right now.
We haven't even seen, like, we're like playing with like sample food, like, hey, you want to taste this? Like, there's no buffet, there's no like, top chefs, there's nothing. It's not even, we're still building the foundational infrastructure. What if since you're an OG, congrats to being an OG, crypto OG, what if this was like, okay, like web 1.0, right? Like the .com, like where would you say we are if you had to throw a year out of there? Like, oh, this is like 2001 or whatever. Where are we in terms of web 3? Like in terms of like the 90s, 2000s, what year would you put it at?
So it's a really good question. I mean, I'm old enough to actually remember when the internet came out in the mid-90s. We had an AOL CD.
Oh,
not even a CD, one of them floppy disks. You put it in, you loaded it from your phone. So I remember the whole .com well. And I'm going to say it like this. So like, I remember doing my first like e-commerce transaction, let's say early 2000s, 2001, 2002.
Wow.
So like using eBay, buying trainers or sneakers for our American audience, buying sneakers from the States. And
Yeah.
I would say like where we are now probably reminds me of like 2008, 2009, 2010.
Mm-hmm.
So we've gone past the initial like e-commerce stuff. Like I would say that's representation of like the exchanges and stuff like that. I think we're actually past that now. And I think now because we're connecting people, you know,
Mm-hmm.
as we talked about through metaverses, through communities, through, you know, investments of coins, what have you not. I think we're very much now kind of in like the very early days of like social media. So like, you know, as I said, the late 2000s, people are using Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, mobile communication.
You think we're that far along in crypto world?
I do. And the reason I say that is, you know, I look at like the breakneck speed of companies and how they're set up in this space. And I think what we're finding in crypto that we didn't find in like traditional growth of like the internet is things go wrong a lot quicker here. And as a result, when they've gone wrong, people fix it a lot quicker. And then the new version comes out.
Because there's more people, it's a more open source. So it's like,
Yes, exactly.
It's like Wikipedia. You could just fix it right there.
And I think the other thing is as well, because we're working across borders here, and you know everything is decentralized, or the actual ethos is. Wow. It only takes like 2 guys or 5 guys across the world for an idea to get together in a Telegram group. 2 days later, they've got a protocol up and running, right? You know, and there's no money gone in, there's no regulation, no forming of a company, no who's going to get how many shares. Just do it.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Wow. What does the future of the workforce look like when you can just instantly create a DAO, create a company, create a protocol, buy some land, like, and just in virtual metaverse land and just go? What does the world look like? How does governments even keep up with that?
I'm really glad you mentioned this, because I think this is a key thing that we're looking at as a company and talking to our clients about. Like with the growth of DAOs, you know, we're now looking at potentially a different way of hiring staff, of retaining staff, but also a different way of how actually staff are going to be involved in your project, right? You know, who are they reporting to now? So I'll take Maker as like the prime example. Like Maker's a project around for 4 years now. It's a leading DeFi protocol. It's very much at the heart of innovation. And, you know, for anyone who doesn't know, these guys transitioned over into a DAO in the last couple of months. So
what is a DAO actually? We brought it up, but what is a DAO?
Yeah, so for anyone who doesn't know, the acronym is a decentralized autonomous organization. But to put that into layman's terms, it's basically a contract that can be put together with any parameters that's, you know, desired. And it's basically an organization run on the values of this contract. So, you know, whatever things you want to program in can be done. And that can be either managed by, you know, stakeholders, can be managed by the community, can be managed by token holders, you know, whichever way kind of like the organization would see fit. But what they're trying to do away with is this like hierarchical top-down structure of a CEO, you know, the lower hierarchy, and then, you know, the workforce underneath. And, you know, people are very much looking at, well, you know, the traditional company ownership model that you get with shareholders and the hierarchy still doesn't lead to the voice of the people. I mean, you know, just in our lifetime, we've seen so many scandals, Enron, you know, I mean, it's too many to think of, really. I'm not a traditional finance guy, but I'm sure there's more we could dig out. And these were all down to mismanagement from the top down, right? And the shareholders were the ones who got screwed over. Idea with a DAO is that the community are the ones who run these, but, you know, with that comes a lot of responsibility. And, you know, part of this is like, okay, how do we manage the team and what's someone's job? Now, these are the very early days, right? So I'm talking about if you get into the right project now for DAO and you've been there and you're a community member, they might actually just make a job for you, because who knows better about their project than you? And, you know, if there's not a job already right now, what you want to do, they might just make one for you.
Yeah.
You know, on the downside of it, you could think you've got a little bit less job security if the community is voting on these things. But I'm going to say it like this: as someone who's been around in crypto, the community is make and break for everything. Like projects, tokens, exchanges, you name it, you know, community, you live and die by it. So one of the things you're going to find, especially with the early years in the DAOs, especially with hiring and getting jobs at these companies, take the chance of getting involved in them. Put your name forward in the hat, because like I talked about earlier, if people like you, they trust you. If they trust you, they want to work with you, and they'll inevitably give you an opportunity that might not have been there if you just sent over your resume with a name and, you know, an application.
Yeah, that's real. That's nuggets, guys. I hope you are listening. People like you, they trust you. If they trust you, they want to work with you. That should be an NFT.
And you know, on that note, Joshua, just as we wrap up here, like, you know, there was a mutual friend that we were talking about just before we started on the podcast.
Yeah.
Like, how I found him a job, or how I helped him get into a job, right, is he reached out to me and he goes, oh, there's a famous saying that, you know, from Kobe Bryant or something like that, or, you know, famous sports star in the States. And he goes, you miss 100% of the shots you never take. So he goes, here I am taking my shot and I hope I score. So I was like, man, I'm going to reply back to this guy, because
that's so him. That's so him. Yeah.
You know, and because he reached out and because he was friendly, I liked him straight away. Because I liked him, I took the time to actually say, hey, let's jump on a call and see what we can do to help you find work. Now, this guy had a great resume, but he had no crypto experience. And, you know, I talked about it earlier, like, companies are looking for this as their first filter. So if you don't have it, you know, there's candidates out there that do, they'll unfortunately just pass you over and go for the guy who has. But in this guy's case, because I really liked him and because he had the right attitude, we said, right, what can we do to kind of mitigate this? And we worked and basically we kind of tried enough interviews and applications for him to get in front of enough people.
Yeah.
But inevitably, he just sold himself. You know, it's sometimes just getting yourself in front of people.
Yeah.
And this is all it takes, right? So again, guys, like, if you are looking for something and you're finding it hard, reach out to the specialists in that space and just take a shot, right? If they're not going to help you immediately, try someone else. If they're not helping you, try again. You know, be persistent.
Yeah.
Again, if they're not helping you immediately, show them something that you've done off your own back.
Yeah.
That then they take an interest in and say, wow, all right, I work with this guy.
Yeah. Definitely. That's real. Like that. Yeah. I mean, there's not enough. There's so many jobs that people are like listing out there and not enough people to fill them.
It's true.
So it's definitely right for CryptoJobsDaily to be helping, you know, people get their leg up and get into the industry. What's your number one focus now through like the rest of the year, and just like then like summer 2022, where do you want to be as a company, and then like what's the overall vision for CryptoJobsDaily?
So I'm really glad you asked this. I mean, again, like, not coming from a traditional recruitment background, like, for me, you know, the numbers don't really mean much. You'll often find recruiters are all about having like a whiteboard up and then how many targets.
Gotta hit the quota.
Right? You know, they ring a bell for every time they get a placement, because all they care about inevitably is the fees that they get and how much money they're making. For us, I don't really care about the money. Money's secondary. I mean, I've been in crypto long enough now where I'm comfortable financially, and, you know, I'm happy in my life, what I'm doing. The main thing we're looking for as growth as a company is just building the relationships with the clients we want.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we've got a clear focus that we don't want a certain number of clients or more than that, because we won't be able to deliver a constant service. But the main thing we're looking for is, like, in a year's time, is that candidates we've placed now are really going to be senior in a year's time in the company and the sectors that they're in.
Yeah.
And we're kind of looking at, like, how can we continuously train people to continuously develop their skills in blockchain? Because as you probably know, there's so much coming out nowadays. Like, unless you're looking at things 24/7, you get left behind, right?
Not keep up, even if you are.
It's true. So I think our next phase of growth as a company is, you know, we've got established now in terms of placing candidates and helping clients fill their jobs. We really want to help the candidates grow now. So that's kind of people from the bottom level. Like, we're kind of starting up a coaching academy in the near future where we work with clients and candidates to say, right, what do companies need and what do actually candidates lack, and how can we help with that? And then the next stage is, you know, for the people already working in this industry and looking to take that next step up, we're really looking at like career development plans, like how can you transition, you know, and also for clients on that stage as well, when they're looking to get the best of the best.
Yeah.
We're also looking at their organization and saying, you know, how can you improve your working practices? What can you offer to staff, what they're not getting already? And also like looking at helping them in their hiring, you know, as companies are growing right now, there's sometimes they have so many things that hiring tends to be like left to one side until it's an urgent matter.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I see Crypto Jobs Daily being this like full service, full house, human capital stack. I don't want to call it a company, I'll call it a stack. You kind of start with the base layer of someone in crypto, right? That newbie, and they keep putting on layers on their crypto resume or who they are, and they just keep getting better and better through you all's layers. So it's really cool. I'm really excited for you and Crypto Jobs Daily.
Most definitely. And you know, just kind of as we wrap up, Joshua, you know, it's been a real pleasure kind of being on the show. But for anyone who's listening out there and thinks, you know, I want to transition or I want to speak to us, you know, you're more than welcome to reach out. I'm sure you'll leave the links in the description. But anyone who wants to get in touch, you can go on our website at www.cryptojobsdaily.com, or you can always hit me up on Twitter at CryptoJobsDaily. And, you know, would love to kind of hear from anyone out there who's looking to either, you know, get a new job in crypto or, you know, actually looking to start a brand new career in this space.
Yeah, definitely. We're definitely going to plug you, Mani, and Crypto Jobs Daily.
It's 13 hours.
Yeah, this is awesome as we close up. I'll definitely put those notes below. Thanks, man, for your time. This was awesome. This was cool. Crypto OG, I appreciate your knowledge and wisdom. And your new NFT quote that we're gonna work on getting out.
Thank you. No, it's been a real pleasure, and you know, would love to come back on like in the next year, Joshua, to see how things have gone and talk about like all things jobs related as well.
Yes, definitely. I can only imagine where it's going to be a year from now.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. So again, thank you very much for having us on, Joshua. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you, man. We'll talk soon, and have a great rest of the day and week.
Thank you.
All right, peace. Yo, what's up? That was my guy, Mani from Crypto Jobs Daily. I'm going to leave his information in below and in the podcast the same. Man, hey, if people like you, they trust you. If they trust you, they want to work with you. So Mani, that's his quote. We'll get it in NFT. We'll see. But definitely a lot of nuggets, history of, you know, his mining experience back in the day of being a social worker. So, hey, anybody can go into this space. You just got to be hungry, persistent, and just contribute. That's the future, is just contributing to a project. You don't have to be on a team. That's what decentralization is, giving power to the people to contribute and to put their skin in the game, put the money where their mouth is and their work where their mouth is. So, hey, we're breaking to the future, all things future, crypto, blockchain, EV, solar, psychedelics, cannabis, frontier tech, deep tech, the future. You put in the blank, autonomous vehicles. We out here. Love you guys. Peace.